most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Welcome to the Racehour podcast in association with Bet365, the home of the position payout. This is Not Long Now, the show where we take an ante-post look at the Cheltenham Festival, which is just under 6 weeks from now. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me are racing broadcaster Ed Quigley, French racing tipster and Gambling.com aficionado Gary Connolly, and Bet365 racing PR legend Pat Cooney. This week, we're looking at the novice chasers at the festival. We'll start with the Arkle chase on the opening day of the event. 2 miles and half a furlong on the old course. And it's over to Pat for the latest odds from Bet365.
Well, it's been very interesting, the market for this, Rory. And there's a couple of two interesting angles to it. Romeo Coolio, where is he going to go? Of course, he's in the Arkle and the Brown Advisory, but the fact that he's been entered in the Arkle at Leopardstown on the DRF meeting would suggest he's probably more Arkle bound than up in trip bound. So he's been an interesting player. He's currently 9-2, third in. The favourite at the moment is Lulamba at 6-4. And the other story really about the market is how easy to back Kopek de Board has been. That was round about a 2-1 chance a month or so ago. He's pretty friendless out to 3-1. Now, of course, he's only had the one run over fences, but he is also entered to take on Romeo Coolio at Leopardstown over the weekend. Now, that market is interested in that you would imagine Kopek would always be favourite to beat Romeo, but that's not been the case. Romeo is favourite to beat Kopek de Bourg, and Cargis is the third favourite. So it's one of those rare scenarios where you're thinking, well, Willie Mullins is a runner in a Grade 1 that might just need the run. It's not something you'd say too often, really, but that seems to be the story of the market. So much can happen over the weekend, but as things stand at the moment, whatever happens in Ireland, Lulamba is a pretty formidable opponent, I think. This horse is only a 5-year-old. He certainly looks the part. He didn't blow everyone away at Exeter one early on in the season, but last time out, I think he clocked a really good time, and he just looks the part, really. So I think whatever happens come Monday morning, Lulamba will still be favourite, but it'll be fascinating to see how the Kopek de Bourg, Romeo Julio Cargis race pans out. Of the others at fancy prices, excuse me, there's just nothing really there, really. You know, we can't really be looking at the race thinking we might get a shock result. Mambo number 5 might be interesting, but he might be more bound for handicaps. But again, everyone's waiting to see what happens this weekend. But lying in wait and in his stable will be Lulamba, and I'm sure he'll still be favourite Monday morning.
Yeah, it is a very interesting market. As you mentioned, those 3 horses potentially running in the DRF this weekend at Leopardstown: Kopek de Bourg, Romeo Coolio and Cargasi, the next 3 in the betting behind Lulamba. See Lulamba winning the Henry VIII last time out at Sandown, very impressive there. But you're looking at the quality of the horses in behind, those 3 we've mentioned. Obviously, Kopek de Bourg winning the Supreme last year. Romeo Coolio, who looked an absolute beast in the Drinmore. Not so impressive at Leopardstown over Christmas. Cargasi, won the county hurdle last year. These are all horses with very good form. I mean, Gary, given the quality of the potential opposition, does Lulamba look a bit short at 6-4?
Yeah, I can't have Lulamba at all for this race. Just don't think he's a 2-miler. Don't like the way he jumps. He sort of just gets to a fence, gets over, and then goes again. He doesn't jump like a 2-miler. He got outpaced last year in the Triumph when it started to heat up. I think the same thing will happen again. And the Arkle's not 2 miles, it's 7.5 as well, so that's just something to bear in mind. But he wouldn't be on my mind. There's got to be something there that'll beat him, and I'd be a layer of Lulamba. He'll be there to finish placing, but I can't see him winning.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this when we talked about Lulamba before on the show, that you didn't like him as a 2-miler.
Yeah.
And you've got last year's Supreme winner. Okay, he's only run once over fences. He might need the run in the DRF this weekend, but whoever wins the DRF race may not be favourite. It's going to be pretty close, isn't it? I mean, Ed, Nicky Henderson has won this race 8 times, so he does know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Can you pick any holes in what Lalamba's done so far? Gary says he doesn't jump like a
Yeah,
two-miler. What do you think?
Yeah, you possibly can. Yeah, as I said, he's definitely a stare at the trip, isn't he? And if you're going to be crabby, say his raw form at Sandown and beating Be Aware and was it Lump Sum in behind in that horse then? Disappointed at Kempton. Ornadam of Ollie Murphy's has let it down again since. But he did thump him. Look, he's going to be there or thereabouts. So the one thing you would say is, by and large, there's a lot of question marks about the others. He's going to run in the Game Spirit on February the 7th and then should line up. Whereas the negative vibes about Kopek the Board just won't go away, will they? I mean, Patrick Mullins' interview last week didn't really fuel you with enthusiasm when the aim is to get him to the DRF. I'm like, well, the aim, I mean, the race is only a week away. You want to be hearing that he's flying up the gallops, he's breaking the stopwatch, and these vibes are not going away that perhaps his setback was slightly worse than first feared. Obviously his personal conjecture, but the market is reflecting that because you say in terms of the supreme performance by Kopek was scintillating. He bombed out afterwards when clearly flat as a pancake at Punchestown Festival. But yeah, I mean, his chase debut was electric, wasn't it? I mean, you talk about Lalamba being a stare at the trip. Kopek is a totally different type of proposition, isn't he? He races, he's fizzy. He races in Paul Townend's hands. He tries to jump out, whereas Lalamba is almost a bit switched off. Runs a little bit like a 2.5, 3 mile chaser, doesn't he? So it's just, there's a lot of, bizarrely, there's a lot of question marks still about these horses. They're only 6 weeks to the race in the sense of Lamba's probably the most solid proposition because you can't see something going west with him. I'm not going to fall off my seat in amazement if Kopek the Board isn't declared this weekend and they say that there's something not quite right and they need to find another race for him. And I think listening to reading between the lines and trying to work out the Da Vinci Code between the owners, Gordon Elliott and Romeo Coolio, I get the feeling there's definitely a split of opinion within the camp. They've even given him an entry in the Ryanair as a novice, which kind of tells you all you need to know. With Romeo Coolio, I believe the plan would be, if he cannot beat Kopek the Board in heavy ground this weekend over 2 miles, given Kopek's preparation, then he's not going to beat him in March over the minimum trip. I'd imagine that would be the logic. So I get the feeling Romeo Coolio will, if he races against Kopek the Board this weekend, if he beats him, he'll probably go Arkle route. If he loses, they'll just go Brown Advisory because they'll take the view, well, if we couldn't beat Kopek on the back of his one run and an injury, well, what's the point? And he doesn't shape like a 2 miler to me. He looks like perfectly in that 2.5 mile comfort zone. Whether they roll the dice at 3 or not, who knows? So there are a lot of question marks, but I think Lalamba almost has to be fav on default of, as long as he has 4 legs and he stays in one piece, he's going to the Arkle. Whereas you could easily see second and third favourites not there for various other reasons. So yeah, it's a muddling affair, but be great, wouldn't it, if we could at least get the Kopek Lalamba clash on the opening day would really set the scene beautifully.
It certainly would. I mean, God, they always used to say that you needed a 2.5 miler to win the Arkle, didn't they? So
yeah,
but
there's different types of 2.5 milers. Sorry, Rory, just very quickly. You've got the ones that can maintain a good cruising speed over 2.5 and it could easily come back down in trip. Or you get the horses who are totally outpaced at 2 and then stay on. So it's different types of 2 milers. You could argue, as you're quite right, and just to play devil's advocate, Django Bay would be the perfect example of that. He's a stayer. They went hard on soft ground. Now, you can use all the phrases you like and narratives like, oh, the race fell into his lap and whatever. But yeah, having that staying armoury is never going to be a problem. But it's a race, a bit of a conundrum between those big three at present, and clearly difference of opinions in where some of these horses should be going.
Yeah, Pat, I mean, have you seen much money for Lalamba? Any takers for Lalamba at 6-4?
Not really. I mean, he features in lots of multiples, but at the moment, really, it's a no-play race. It's all about Kopek. I mean, we're not in any problem at all ante-post for them because the front 2 in the market were always going to be very, very easy to find in the market. We knew all about them. They were both going for this race. Kopek is a 2 miler. Lalamba probably. So we haven't laid anything at fancy prices, really. If we get to the day and we think, well, we might get a shock result, then we'll be big and brave on the day. But as things stand at the moment, we're just quite happy to be that little bit defensive, the front two, and hopefully if someone wants to back another horse at fancy price, so be it. So we're in decent shape, but I would say certainly over the last week when it comes to the Arkle, Lulambra's featured in more multiples than Kopek or Romeo.
Okay, so that is the. Oh, before we move on, I mean, anything outside? You say you haven't laid any outsiders, Pat. Ed, do you like any outsiders?
Yeah, as I said, this race will cut up to single-figure field. It always does. You're daft to not mention outsiders in this by virtue of they will, if they're going to make the gig, you're going to be in a good position. Mammo number 5 was mentioned by Pat. I do think is interesting. This horse is progressing at a rate of knots. We shouldn't overlook that. Ben Paulding said we thought we might have a nice 2-mile handicapper, but he just keeps winning, doesn't he? And he's flying up through the grades. He's improved a stone since November. Lightly race, huge sort. Now, he's either in the Silly Isles. Diva Loon has had a setback, so he might run in the Silly Isles at the weekend or wait for the Classic Chase at Warwick. The Kingmaker at Warwick. And obviously, if he wins, whizzes around Warwick and wins, he will probably crash into single figures for this. So I don't think he's a forlorn hope he makes the gig, and he would have an each-way chance, if you see what I'm saying, because you don't know where the ceiling of that horse's ability is. And the other one in here, I did think I wouldn't be shocked if she ran a big race for a trainer who's got a cracking record. This is July Flower, who ran abysmally last time out. This is a typical Henry de Bromhead individual. A lot of Henry's horses, we know, they kind of go missing, don't they, in the depths of the winter, and then mysteriously the daffodils come out, Cheltenham arrives, and they all suddenly start absolutely flying. Now, she tucked away Be Aware quite convincingly in Cheltenham's Arkle trial in November. Now, obviously, that gives a collateral form line through Lalamba using Be Aware as the yardstick. Now, Be Aware's Lalamba's got half a dozen lengths more than July Flower in hand, but it's still that's a solid piece of form if you use Be Aware as the yardstick. And as I say, given there's a general upturn to Henry de Bromhead in the spring, and he won this, didn't he? But Put the Kettle On 3 or 4 years ago was written off as, oh, she's a tough mare, she'll run all right, but she's probably not good enough, and she defied the odds. So I wouldn't be shocked at a big price if she made the gig, and I do expect her to improve for some spring ground, and she's got course and distance form as well, which is something which shouldn't be overlooked.
Gary, anything take your interest at a price in the Arkle market?
Yeah, like too. So Ed's putting up the Flower. The Irish Panther slapped her out of the way when he chased home Romeo Coolio at Leopardstown. I think he's far too big a price, 16-1. It's probably, he just doesn't have the sexy profile of the bigger horse. It's just his hurdle form. It was just handicap form, really. He looked a bit soft in the finish, but the Hardys have turned him inside out, and I thought that was a serious run over Christmas when he just got gunned down late. He's gone there. He should like the track, the trip, good jumper, bomb out in front. I think he'll go well. And another one at a wild price I like is Steel Alley at 33-1. I've liked what I've seen from him so far this season. He kicked Unexpected Party out of the way at Carlisle on his debut, and then he followed that up at Ascot in December. He jumps, he stays. A lot to like about him, and I think this race will cut up badly. So 2 at a price from me. That's who I'll be side with.
So there you go. A couple of lively outsiders being tipped by the lads for the Arkle, which does have a short-priced favourite in Lulamba. But of course, we're going to have a lot of questions answered this weekend at Leopardstown in the DRF. We move on to probably my favourite race of the festival, I have to confess. It's the Brown Advisory Novice Chase on the Wednesday, 3 miles on the old course, used to be known as the RSA Chase. This is normally pretty competitive, but not this time, according to the bookies. Here's Pat with the latest odds from Bet365.
Well, this is the, if you like your short price favourites, you've got one in this race for you. Final Demand, currently evens. Second favourite, the Big Westerner, the Mighty Mare. Don't forget, mares get £7 in this, so that's of very much of interest. Kitspool, Willie Mullins 8-1. Romeo Coolio, we've already said which way will he go. That's open to debate. He's at 8, and then 16-1 Bar. Now, Final Demand. He has always been a short price for this race, fellas, because he was only ever going to go for the one race. He wasn't ever going to be Arkle bound. He stays extremely well. So we had no worries about which race he would be going for in terms of pricing. He's 2 from 2 over fences. He was impressive first time out. Then he went to Limerick, and he didn't blow everyone away, let's say, with that run at Limerick last time out. But I spoke to his owner at Windsor a couple of weeks ago, and he said, well, he was just running lazily in front. And the horse that they thought their main danger was, I think it pulled up actually in the race. They thought they didn't want to be done for speed by him, so they thought they might have to make the running. And they would be quite happy taking a lead in a race like this. And the better the company, the better horse he'll be. So all systems go really. He's scheduled to run at Leopardstown on Sunday in a race, and he's going to be long odds on for that. He should win emphatically. He's certainly the horse to beat. I mean, his CV reads so much better than all of the other ones. But interestingly, we have laid the big Westerner, say the mare. She was second in the Albert Bartlett at the festival a year ago. You got no worries about her with the trip. Soft ground might be something she'd prefer, but we can worry about that on the day. But she has been the mover against Final Demand in the last couple of weeks, and say she was about 12-1 2 weeks ago. She's now clipped into 7, and again with that, you know she's going to run in the race. You know she's going to stay, so she's very much of interest. You scratch below the surface, then you got Kitzbühel of Willie Mullins, who is 2 from 2. Whether he's an absolute 3-mile one horse remains to be seen. And one horse that I think of the domestic challenge is Wendigo of Jamie Snowden, who I know is on pace to run in the race. Now, this one was beaten by Kitzbühel at Kempton, but I think they fancy getting a bit nearer to him, going left-handed over a more demanding trap. So I know Wendigo, he's on pace to run in this race as well. So if you're playing guess the runner at a fancy price, Wendigo's certainly going to line up on the day. How much shorter it'll be remains to be seen. But if Final Demand dazzles over the DRF on Sunday, I'm sure odds on awaits. But he's going to have to come out and do it again. He might find himself in front a long way from home, race lazily once again, and we'll still pick holes in him. But he's certainly the class act of the race.
He is, and he is. It's taken a while to get there, but this is the Willie Mullins jolly of the festival. Usually we'd have had it in the Supreme or another race, but we finally got it here in the Brown Advisory. I mean, if you were to pick holes in Final Demand, you know, he is 3 from 3 over fences. His only defeat came at Cheltenham in the Turners at last year's festival. You mentioned the big Westerner for Henry de Bromhead, second in last year's Albert Bartlett. Beat Jay de Grugy at Limerick over Christmas. This market is dominated by Irish runners. You've said Kitzbühel, who won at Kempton, and looks like he'll be running in the Scilly Isles this weekend by the looks of it at Sandown. Wendigo, you mentioned leading the home team for Jamie Snowden. Your Cocktail Divan for Henry de Bromhead as well. Personally, I don't think any horse should be odds on for a novice chase at the festival or even money. And, you know, novice chumpers, I just think, you know, I think you're taking your life into your own hands backing one at such a short price. And in the case of Final Demand, especially the fact that his only defeat came on this track. I mean, Ed, I saw you nodding your head at Wendigo, but we'll look at Final Demand first. Do you think he's a good thing?
No, even money gets me terrified. He may well be, but I mean, I suppose it's two different questions. Are you asking me 6 weeks in advance will I back him even money? Absolutely not. Would I perm him up at 4-7 on the day if I knew he's in a 6-runner race and everything's right? Possibly, yes. I mean, even money now is crackers. I mean, no, I think this is quite a deep race. There's a lot of horses in here who could easily give him a race. And as you say, we heard all this last year. Every Cheltenham preview night I was on, Final Demand just got to turn up, unsaddle, get off the lorry, walk onto the track, hand Willie Mullins the trophy and go home. Well, last time I looked in the results book, he could have beat the Yellow Clay as it went up the Cheltenham Hill. So, yeah, he's a huge individual. I think the drying ground was against him on that occasion. Now, look, that old cliche, whatever he did over hurdles was a bonus. He was always going to be a chaser. Yeah, that could be totally apt. And he has oozed kind of charisma, hasn't he, so far over fences, and he looks the part. But it's just, as you say, a novice chase, very skinny price. We probably won't end up learning much about him more, even though the DRF should be a good test. It probably won't be. That's if the meeting goes ahead, that is. So, yeah, just not for me at the prices. I just got it. I agree with you, Rory. It's just that in the back of my mind, when the chips were down, at Cheltenham last year, I wouldn't say he cracked, but he didn't find as much as I thought. Now, obviously, the new line's more or less champion hurdle favourite. So he was probably in a hot race, but not for me at the prices. In regards to your second part of the question, I think Wendigo's a cracking bet in this. He's definitely going to run. Funny enough, he's going to air on Thursday, so probably just after this video comes out, he's 1-6 in a 3-runner race or something. Because Jamie Snowden said we're sending him to Scotland because he needs to go left-handed. They learned that quite categorically behind Kit's Bull at Kempton, where he was going. It's a sharp right-handed track, Kempton. He was shifting left-handed his obstacles. Gavin Sheehan was having to keep pulling him back round, and it was all just happening too quick on good ground on a tight right-handed track. And to his credit, Wendigo, if you looked at him in the home straight, you thought he was going to drop out the back of the television. He's knuckled down, and he's really stayed on powerfully at the run-in to finish third. I would strongly fancy him to return the form with Kit's Bull at Cheltenham. I think 3 Mile 1, Brown Advisory, real staying track. Yes, definitely. Whether he's good enough to win it outright, who knows? Because you say the Irish Challenge looks formidable. Second favourite, she's a huge strapping mare, isn't she? Who jumps well. Again, probably would want the ground pretty deep or at least soft to be seen at her best. So, a bit of a muddle again. Even Maddie instinctively feels very skinny about a novice chaser 6 weeks in advance. I'm with Wendigo. I think we're around 14, 16 to 1. He's a dour stay. Also worth noting, his final point on Wendigo. He was rather, I would say, unlucky to win the Albert Bartlett last year. It would be too far-fetched, but he was nearly brought down. If you haven't seen the race, as they turned into the home straight, he got squeezed up against the rail. He slipped, nearly brought down. Gavin Sheehan lost all momentum, had to get going again, and ran on into 5th. So he was if you take the 5th in isolation, it doesn't set the pulse racing in terms of Cheltenham Festival form, but the bare result doesn't tell the full story in that occasion. So, Wendigo, my each way kind of play at the prices. And again, in a race which is a bit of an equine Rubik's Cube, I would say, providing he's fit and well and he pops around it 1-7 and wins his prep run up in Scotland, he will be going there and probably start a single figure price.
Yeah, I mean, and Gary, of course, we'll know more after this weekend at Leopardstown. Although heavy ground, I think it's waterlogged at the moment. I'm sure they'll get it on. But final demand: play or lay?
I'm got to be very contradictive here. If you fancy him at evens, I'd back him. I think I can see he could go off 1-2, 1-3 come the festival time. In saying that, I wouldn't have him in a million Sundays. I think he is the most overrated horse in training at the moment. It's like his form lines, he's Gold Dancer as a summer jumper and Wingman, who's an absolute dog. That's his form lines of offences. And it ties in with some other competitors in this race. Like, I don't think he's that fast. I think he's just a galloper. He has no turn of foot. We saw last year he got left for dead up the hill against 2 speedy types, and I can see that happening here. So, dead against them, but if you do fancy him at evens, I think he will go offshore on the day. No doubt about that. Who I'm taking him on with, I don't know, is the thing. I like Kit's Bull. I think he has the best form. That KO Star was an unreal performance. Slight issue, he probably hasn't gone this way around. It's all right-handed. Tracks his best form is on, but I think if he needs to be final man, he needs to gun it from the front. I don't know if the Mullins will let him do that against final demand. I think for whatever reason, you think this horse is the second coming, so they probably want him to have an easy time in front. I don't think they're going to put stable mates hassling him. In saying that, Danny Mullins was on him. If there's one boy who doesn't listen to stable instructions, it could be him. What I'd probably do on this, if he does line up and they jump off and Danny Mullins is riding him and gets him to the front, I'd get on him in running. That'd be my play, but that's a while off. One I have backed on the hope it comes up heavy is K Dahi. I think this is a serious horse. Once it's heavy ground, he needs a bottomless underfoot. He did put up the Kit's Bull on his debut, and then he hosed up next time out. He'd be Wingman. That form ties him a final demand. Like, he's 25 to 1 with 365. He does need his action. I'd be very worried on good ground with his action. If it comes soft, I think he'd be a player. At a 25 to 1, it's worth chancing on the rain gods do you a favour. So that's for me.
Yeah, and K Dothy is another horse we'll see probably at Leopardstown on Sunday. You've got the Novice Chase over 2 mile, 5.5, and conditions would be in his favour, you'd think. So,
Yeah.
if he puts up a big performance there, his price for Cheltenham would be halved at least. So, one you'd back now, or one you've already backed, Gary?
I have backed him. The only concern for Sunday, I think they'll let Final Demand have his way in front. It's going to be very Mullins heavy, that race. You need to put him under pressure. If these sit back and let him roll in front, and Townend around Leopardstown is a genius. That'd be my only concern this week. But if they let him run on merit and put it up to Final Demand, I think he'd make him go. Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Pat, just before we leave the race, have you seen any money for any lively outsiders in this market?
Not really. As I said, the big Westerner, the mare, has been the popular order. And I see wisdom in her. But again, she might be one for the day, and we'll see what happens on over the weekend. She's 7 at the moment. Unless something happens to the favourite, she's still going to be around about that. And if you have a dry day and the ground's not as testing, she should be a little bit harder to fancy. But I'd certainly be keeping her on side. I haven't had a bet in the race, really. I'm all about what happens with the favourite, and particularly the weather on the day.
Absolutely. So a few negative vibes about Final Demand in the Brown advisory. So we've looked at the 2 novice chases at Cheltenham. Time to look ahead to this upcoming weekend's action. And as we've already talked about, the highlight, the Dublin Racing Festival at Leopardstown, Saturday and Sunday, 8 Grade 1s featuring any number of Cheltenham Festival contenders. Wonderful couple of days racing. We've have mentioned as well the Scilly Isles Novice Chase at Sandown, Kitzbühel, Mambo number 5 set to run in that as well. So some good racing this weekend. Pat, first of all, what have we seen money for ahead of the DRF?
Well, most of the money has been for, say, Romeo Coolio in the Arkle. Maybe that's people, guessing the well-being of his market rivals in the race, but he's definitely the best backed horse of the race. As is Dr. Steinberg in the opening novice hurdle. He was odds against a week ago. He's now odds on for that race. So he's our biggest position so far, but he's now odds on. Whether you want to get involved at odds on, who knows how testing the ground will be. But certainly those two are the biggest liabilities we have at the moment. But we've some pretty decent ones in our corner in that race. So we're not running away from them necessarily, but they're certainly big players.
And I believe you're not going to Leopardstown or Sandown, but the joys of Musselburgh await, Pat.
Yes, I'll be at Waverley Station Friday afternoon, all being well. Yeah, we've sponsored it. This is the 9th year we've sponsored this particular 2-day meeting, and it's always great fun. I think it tends to be, if you've got a soft ground horse, you go to Sandown. If you're an Irish horse, you stay at Leopardstown. And if you've a good ground northern horse, you stay up at Musselburgh. So we've a couple of good ones. We've got Manila Study, who's a Triumph Hurdle Aspirations, Mossy Fen Road in the Supreme. He's up there as well. So the trainers are always doing very well here. Normally Lucinda Russell, she does well. Paul Nichols has always done well. And an interesting runner really in their Scottish county handicap. We've got Affodil over Paul Nichols. He's run at this meeting 3 consecutive years. He won the Triumph Hurdle Trial and he was second in this race for the last 2 years. So he'll be a popular order there. But it's good competitive racing, plenty of entries and trainers coming from far and wide. But Christian Williams is coming up. He's got a runner in that race, Willie the Builder. So it's very, very competitive and always great fun. So of course the nightlife's not too shabby either, but I'm too professional for all that.
Of course, Pat. Of course. Yes. Gary, so many good races at Leopardstown. Give us a couple of horses you're excited to see.
Okay, lots to get through, so apologies here.
Need another show. Yeah.
Leopardstown, first race, Nathaniel Lacey. I thought Dr. Steinberg was an absolute stinking favourite here, but I've heard there is some more money on him, so take from that what you will. I thought the Grade 2 at Limerick Farm Line, is the one to focus on here. Kadansky for Elliott. I thought he'd be bang there. He loved the conditions. And the horse that was third in that, Yesel, I've backed 66 to 1 or 365, so that'll do for me. The race and stay handicap hurdle, Heart or Dark, you can get 50 to 1 on this fella. 118 here is a lot higher over fences, so I think he'll relish the conditions and took a swing at him at a price. Paddy Power Gold Cup, I think Fav will be hard to beat, but Spindleberry, I think she's an up-and-coming mare. I think there's more to come, and I think she'll go well. And in the bumper on the Saturday, it's only a game. I'd probably wait until the day. I think he'll go off bigger. I liked his run at Pudgestown earlier on in the season. I think he'll go well. And then, slightly off the horse racing, we'll play about winnings. My dog is actually running in Shelburne Park on the second race on Saturday evening. Trap 1, Taylor Swift. She'd be away and gone up the rails, so that's what we're going to do there. Then we roll into Sunday with a hangover, and first Tatterstalls Island Novice Hurdle, King Rasco Grey. Form 9 got franked by Shuttle Diplomacy the last weekend. I think he'll run a big race and get 10 to 3 on him. Dublin Chase, Marsbury, I think will come on a lot for that run. I think, that Christmas run probably came a bit too soon. But Pat's Traders, I think, have made a mistake on Found 50. You can get 16 to 1 currently with him. He'll go off at least half that price and he'll go close. O'Driscoll Leopardstown Handicap Chase, Kintorp Calanisi 10 to 1 there. I think ran a cracker in the Paddy Power at Christmas, came third. Doesn't say the trip, dropping down, he'll go close. The nap of the whole weekend goes in the paddle at Leopardstown Golf Handicap Hurdle. I started a joke for Charles Burns. Landed his maiden in Punchestown earlier this month. He is absolutely chucked in here and he wins as he likes. And then, if we still have some money left, at the last race of the meeting, the Kilmore National Hunt Shires, Amamite at 10 to 1. Gavin Cromwell, stables turn the corner, like the debut run, and I think she's a bit of value in a weakish race for this grade. And that's me done.
So a comprehensive look there
What
at the
weekend?
DRF from Gary. Ed, has he left you with any horses that you're interested in?
We didn't mention the race I'm most looking forward to, DRF, the Irish Champion Hurdle, Lossiemouth, Brighter Days Ahead, Amsterdam, all clashing. And Willie Mullins said he's not ruling out bringing Ballyburn back to 2 miles on deep ground as well. So that could be a real dust up there. And hopefully we'll conclusively get a Lossiemouth to the Champion Hurdle on the back of that, if that makes sense. It's the kind of acid test as to whether she blows Brighter Days Ahead out the water over 2 miles. Goodness sake, got to go the 2 mile route at Cheltenham. But anyway, that's for another day. But that looks a belter. We've covered all the action. A lot of note taking in regards to Sandown and Musselburgh. In terms of my bet for the weekend, I think the Irish Gold Cup, I think Rebecca Curtis's horses are cracking each way price. Haiti Color, Sean Bowen going there. The ground is going to be desperate. This horse stays 8 days a week. We saw that when it won the Irish National on softer, heavy ground last year. Won a Welsh National. He'll love a punch up. And if Galopan at the age of 10 has finally cracked, I think he'll just run and gallop and jump in it. I don't see him a million miles away there. That's going to take some getting, even though it could dry back a little bit by Saturday on the chase track. It's not going to be quick ground at all. That's going to be a real grueler. Don't know what price we are, Pat, around 7 to 1 when I last saw. But each way, IT Color is going to be my bet of the weekend.
So there you have it. 8 to 1 actually, Haiti Color for Rebecca Curtis in that Irish Gold Cup at Leopardstown. Great weekend's action ahead. Well, that's it for Not Long Now in association with Bet365, the home of the position payout. My thanks to Ed Quigley, Gary Connolly and Pat Cooney. Thanks for your company. I'm Rory Jiwani. We'll be back next week to look forward to more races at the 2026 Cheltenham Festival. Good luck with your bets and see you soon.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounding Contenders into submission.